Hello. Thanks for coming. I was looking through a box of things, as I do, and I came upon something, and it's funny how a little thing from the Commodore history, the history of Commodore, something never made by Commodore, but very much part of the Commodore story, brought back memories of a magical TPUG meeting, and I don't remember exactly when it was. But I do remember it was at Leaside High School in Toronto, which was where the monthly meeting was held, and there were, probably 300-400 people there. Up in the back, Dave Hook, who was the librarian at the time, was working the magic, because of course if you brought a disc to the meeting, you could get the disc of the night copied. So he brought his 4040, others brought their 4040s. I think they had them all hooked up to one machine, and so in the back you could see the lights. Sorry, not the lights, the LEDs from the drives are working. He'd be there putting discs in, taking discs out, putting discs in, and taking discs out. And the room was kind of dark because we had a great big projector. Hard to describe how big it is. It was big. Probably 3 feet long and a foot by a foot or so thereabouts. And it was made up so that it could accept the video from a PET. And it's funny, it would and it was a green screen monitor, of course. Although later there was a color one. It's funny, you know, you could have it go from meeting to meeting, and nothing would ever be touched, but somehow there was this one little dial that always needed to be turned to make it just so it wasn't rolling or scrolling or something. And I remember there was a fellow named Craig Bonner who would often be the one who would deal with the projector. But it was very helpful, so the lights would mostly be out, and people would speak, and there would be questions, and there would be answers, and there would be this, and there would be that. Anyway, so this thing I found had inspired quite the discussion, and in some cases it was almost a heated discussion about whether this was okay to use and okay to do. And there were so many people who spoke. Now at the time, Jim Butterfield was up talking, and he threw in his 2 cents about what was what with this. And, you know, it went on for some time. And I'm sure you're wondering, what could all this controversy have been about? What could it have been? Well, I give you a disc notcher. And what did a disc notcher do? Well, on a regular disc, which I should have handy, but I don't. All right, Penny. How are you doing? There's a notch. And if you want the disc to be able to be written to, the notch you leave as it is with a notch. And if you want it to be write protected, the discs came with these little stickers you could put over to write protect disc. Beautiful. Well, of course, discs were expensive back then. So the disc notcher allowed you to use both sides. And, people would go on about, well, no, the discs are only certified on one side. You could lose your data. And then there were people who said, well, if you put it in the one way, and it runs that way, and then you flip it over, it's running the other way, and if there's any dust or anything, it's going to hurt the other side. It's going to, it just went on and on and on. It was endless. And everybody seemed to have an opinion. Funny, I don't remember anybody being there from any of the disc selling places or disc making places or anything. One person did point out, see, I believe the PET and the Apple used the same sort of disc. I believe. But people, hello Penny, but people would say, oh, well, you know, they're only certified on one side. Well, this is true. Penny, you gonna jump? What do you want to do? Hi, do you want me to move this box? There you go. Come again. Anyway, but of course, they were only certified on one side. But supposedly, the Apple drives read from one side and wrote to from one side, and the PET disc did the other. So, if you got the same box of discs, whether or not you were using the bottom or the top really didn't matter, because it just depended on what machine you had. So I guess they were, I could be completely wrong, I think they were maybe double density single side. Yes, Penny, I know. So along came the disc notcher, which was perfectly made, this one made by Suncor, that you could take a disc, put it in here, snap it, well, push it, and much like a ticket taker would do in an old carnival to show or that you had paid your thing, or you were used so many rides or whatever, it would pop it out. That's funny. Also, the TTC used to have such things. The drivers would carry with. They would do things with transfers. Anyway, so then of course you could use both sides of the disc. And anyway, as I said, this went on and on. And I believe Steve Punter was there, and he had something to say. And all kinds of people. And really, there was no consensus. It's almost like this was some sort of experimental vaccine of the day. Hello, Penny. Do you want to come up? Yes, you do. Okay, there you go, Penny. There you go. There you go. So, when it was all over, it was time for Jim Butterfield to do a demonstration. And he fired up, it was a PET, and he had a disk drive there, and he went to go look for whatever it is he was going to go and do and show. And he looked through the directory and he said, oh, wrong, it's not here, whatever. And I don't know if he really did this or if he just said this, because of course it's in the dark, because you have to see the projector. But then he just said, oh, I'll just turn this, oh, hello, Penny. I'll just turn this over. And then, of course, he called up a directory, and there was the program that he wanted to show. And, of course, there was a huge laugh as he did this. That was, hello, Penny. That was one thing about Jim Butterfield. He could do a demonstration. And if you knew everything, you were still fascinated. If you knew nothing, you were fascinated. If you were somewhere in the middle, you were still fascinating. And he could quickly think on his feet to the circumstances. And I've never met anybody like him. Always with that little sly wink in his eye. And he would talk about anything. I remember we had many discussions about cats, and it's very, what are you looking at, Penny? It's very symbolic that Penny has gone up here during this little talk, because one of the most famous and cherished pictures of, I think it was the TPUG magazine, or no, you know what, I think it was the Tour Pet. They had decided they would put Jim. What are you looking at? What? Penny looks all agitated. Anyway, they decided they would put Jim on the cover. And so down they went to, you okay? To his house, and they were shooting, and at one point his cat, and I don't remember his cat's name, but somebody remembers, I know. I think Carl Hilden remembers. Jumped up on the monitor. So basically it's a side shot. I don't know what you're doing. Of Jim sitting, actually there were many, because they shot many pictures of Jim, being at a pet, and I think it was a large screen pet, and the cat was looking down on him, and Penny, what are you doing? Yes, I know. Anyway, I don't remember what issue it was, but it was really a great picture. It was. And actually, just by chance, in the background of that picture was the Commodore 64 that years later Jim gave to my brother. And, yes, hello. Did you find something? Anyway, he gave to my brother, and it ended up down the road. It was discovered as being the lowest known real serial number on a Commodore 64. Anyway, it was off in the background of that picture. Right, Penny? You gonna go back up? Up. There you go. So, yes, there are many Butterfield stories. I'm sure everybody has one, some, many. I was honored to have been able to spend not tons of time, but a considerable amount of time with Jim Butterfield. And I would have spent more had I known that things were going as poorly as they were when I last saw him at the TPUG dinner after one of the World of Commodore things many years ago, probably 12 or 13 years ago now, when he appeared, and he was literally just came out of the hospital to come to the dinner. He still had tubes and things and stuff, and he assured me he'd be all right. Anyway, as we all know, that was not the case. But he lives on in the memories of how he would say cassette, tape, etc. And on that night, and I think it was a winter night, he brought some levity to an otherwise heated discussion over the safety and perhaps even the efficacy of using a disc notcher. This one, it's funny, I don't know why, but it has three little things. Maybe the idea is you could also use it as a disc holder. I don't know. Anyway, Penny seems intrigued by something, and if I thought ahead, I would have notched a disc here, but I did not. But anyway, I'm glad I found this, because actually there have been times in the recent, couple of years that I was like, oh, and I did actually notch a disc taking a pair of scissors ever so carefully, but it's not as good as a disc notcher. But anyway, so what you looking at, Penny? Penny. Let's see. Can we, before Penny scrambles, it is not so great as there is light behind her. Anyway, so I have much to do. As I was looking through this one box, I was like, oh, there is so much stuff in here. Yes, indeed, I have much to go through, including, this is a Commodore 64. I'm not sure you can see this. It's the Commodore 64. I got it in Lindsay, Ontario. It had belonged to a fellow. It was in his storage. Unfortunately, he had left us, and his friend was clearing out the storage. And I've never had it plugged in. I have no clue if it works. It looks good. And when the fellow put the ad up on Kijiji, I happened to be in the vicinity, or I knew I would be in the vicinity, and wrote to him and got it, and really need to check it out. So what I really need to do, as I've said, hi Penny, what are you looking at? What I really need to do is get an area set up where I can test such things. And I don't want to lose track of this one, because I did say some months ago would keep the fellow informed as to if it worked or if it didn't or what was what. Penny.
Keep your plans secret for now.
Interesting. Well, enough of the disc notcher. This one made by Suncom. I think they also make games. I recognize this logo, I think. But I could be wrong. Right, Penny? Right. Well, she's not talking, so I guess I will stop. Thanks for coming. Always a pleasure.